So we've got another 2003 here that was a start and stall after an overnight soak. We would start the rest of the day. I had one a week or so ago like that, turned out to be the Thickum. This one here, a little bit different symptoms, but still have the start and stall. So no codes for the fuel injection control module, so I wasn't too concerned about that. Not generally, but it will set codes if you have any low or open circuits on it, shorted or open. It's gonna let you know. You're gonna have codes up the yin yang in it. So first thing I looked at was the I want to see my low pressure oil system. I want to make sure my oil filter is full. I have the proper oil filter in there. It's fitting. It's not draining out of there and causing a siphon and maybe drawing down the high pressure oil reservoir. So I'm looking at my ICP, crank it, fire it up. The ICP comes up, injection control pressure comes up about 500 psi. It lights up, runs for a second and a half, 2 seconds, drops down, goes just to zero, and then of course the engine shuts off. So I did that 2 or 3 times, and finally it would start up and run good the rest of the day. So I know I didn't have a problem with my base oil, my base oil pressure. There wasn't any deficiencies there. So now I want to look at my injection control pressure sensor. So, and it's mounted way in the back behind the turbo on this year, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to get at. So I looked at it, I'm gonna figure out what pin I'm dealing with on my at the PCM, and I want to probe into it and take a look at it with a scope, see what kind of signal I have there. So I did that, and of course I had to wait till the next day now because it isn't going to have the problem. So did some other stuff, came back to it the next morning, set up my test, fired it up, and of course it started right up and ran and didn't have a problem with it. So okay, well, we'll wait, we got plenty of things to do. So went and worked on something else, came in the next morning, tried it again, and I was watching my signal, recording it of course, so that I could go back and look at it too. And I saw my signal, it looked, it came up and you could watch it, and just before it would die, it would have an episode where it would, kind of go crazy there, and then the engine would die. So, I went ahead and replaced the ICP sensor, and I put an IPR in it too, because it's a long way back there and I'm not going back in there. So, got that taken care of, and I hadn't had the problem since. And I looked at my signal after that, and it looks fine. Nothing weird going on there. So I don't know if it's the IPR or the ICP. At this point, I don't care. It's fixed, and I wasn't going to change one without the other. The ICP sensor was leaking naturally, because those early ones, they always leak. So anyways, got that replaced, and had an oil leak at the engine oil cooler. There's the gasket on there. About every 4 or 5 years, that gasket gets flat in there, and that thing's actually moving around on there, and it'll start leaking oil. And this thing, it progressively got worse the more I ran it. I mean, it was just puking oil out of it. So I had to pull everything apart again and put a new, clean that all up, test the cooler, put a new gasket in there, and I'm in the process of putting it back together now. And then let's see, I had another problem too. Oh, it had the P132B. So apparently I looked around. It doesn't look like I have any exhaust leaks. You can tell there'll be soot around them, and checked the intake, looked at my cac hoses and all that. I don't think I have an intake leak. So I went ahead, since I had the turbo off anyway, I pulled it apart. Of course, the unison ring was just stuck, bigger crap. So cleaned it all up, made sure it was working smoothly, and put it back together, and it's back on there now. And like I said, I'm in the process of putting this back together so I can get it out of here, because I got 1,000 other things I need to be working on. But those are some of the other things that'll give you that start and stall in the morning. Maybe we'll find one here one of these days that turns out to be the has something to do with the actual oil system. That real interesting. But anyway, I'm almost done with this. I can get it out of here, and then we'll work on something else.